At the beginning, everything was white. And then, in God's deepest dream, there was a spark of fertility. Pachamama was birthed in time and space. And the earth school, our home, was created. And the fertility goddess Pachamama opened her arms for our place to learn our lessons.
Hey, hey!
Hello, welcome, Spiritual Mag. I'm Sam Bell. Today we're going to talk about two things that start with S: spirituality and spying. Ties together interestingly, I have to share. So here's myself at a more than 7,000-year-old portal on the coast in Peru, on the west coast. Very, very interesting. You're when you're wearing your jeans and your shirt and your boots and you're standing with that rock, it's like, it's kind of like you're meaningless and nothing because you're going to be there for a flash and then you're gone. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. And around that circle, I think it's as much an auditory symptom as a physical symptom of walking around it, listening to the Peru, the natural frequencies that are so super subtle. It's just the birds and the waves, and the wind. And right there's like no trees, no bushes, and right there, and that it's a desert actually. So the frequency of the sound it's pretty nice. It really, really is. And the visual texture of that spot helps your mind to exclude all the outside stimuli and go into your core, where you connect to your heart chakra, where you have a spiritual umbilical cord. So, spying. What's spying got to do with spirituality? Well, spirituality just kind of means, going through life learning, know thyself, and all the lessons about patience and compassion and not judging, unconditional love. About others, though, it's a different story. Okay, those are lessons for me. There's other people who have lessons. They have their own lessons. They're separate. I don't necessarily have to be participating that closely to their lessons. I can isolate myself from whatever it is, on the planet. So in general, the Earth planet is designed on a kind of like a 60-40 thing. 60% of the people are kind of greed oriented and 40% are not that much greed oriented. And it kind of stays that way. Of course, there's extremes on both sides, because when people incarnate here, they're coming to a school to learn lessons. And one of the lessons people need to learn, myself, yourself, everyone, is honesty. And lessons about greed. Usually it's greed for control. A lot of people have enough stuff. It's more about greed for control. But those are kind of the two lessons that really impact us on the third dimension. So from 40,000 BC, 40,000 BC to 1841 AD, in the 1800s, spying was done by eavesdropping. Eavesdropping, that's spelled E-A-V, start over, E-A-V-E-S, dropping. And that just meant that they started making roofs 40,000 years ago. And so where the roof would go past the wall, there was be an airspace up in there. That was called the eave. So the world was controlled by spies, which were basically disguised as eavesdroppers. And then they had their own communication system that would report back to some, fat guy with a crown on his head somewhere. It's 40,000 BC to 1841. What's that about? So for a really, really long time, eavesdropping was, you have good eavesdroppers who could speak different languages, And back then it was the same rules as today. The spying or the eavesdroppers the rule is the end justifies the means. Think about it. The end justifies the means. And dead men tell no tales. So the general perspective of these fat guys with the crowns on their head, whatever, was, well, we can, work our way through the public and conceal the information and know ahead of time what's happening and head it off. And that was how spying was done until 1841. And that's when Anton Mesmer, a German physician, quote, invented it. That's the story. He invented it. And he started off with what's called animal magnetism. You seem like you could draw a line and put the chicken's head on there. The chicken doesn't know what to do, just sits there. Actually, turkeys, in a big rain, a big, hailstorm, they'll look up and get hypnotized and they'll drown with their mouth open. Hypnosis suggestion. Human beings, mammals, different kinds of animals have certain states where you're asleep, you don't know what's going on. Now you go to sleep a lot. What's going on? I don't know. I'll go to sleep. Oh, okay. 40% of your life. So in 1841, hypnosis from animal magnetism goes to human magnetism. And that's Dr. Mesmer figured it's magnetism. Because he knew if he stood up and went like this to some people, they'd just be like, ah, and they just, go to this weird state, including all kinds of weird problems he could fix, magnetizing the people. He's kind of like coming as rays. He was thinking, well, it must be like gravity, because you can't see gravity, but it's kind of like gravity is coming out, right? Well, that's the story that's sold. That's not really what happened. But that's what's printed everywhere. It's like Peter Banana. I have to start this location at 12:30 in the afternoon. He ate a bologna sandwich with cheese. That's not really what happened. Okay. Hypnosis, mind control is a big deal. It's all over. It's a really, 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 really big deal. Okay, so do you know who had the first regularly scheduled television program? Now, you know a lot about TV, the ghosts and animals attack and, entertainer in a movie. Well, you must know who had the first regularly scheduled television program. You don't know, do you? Possibly that's because it was Adolf Hitler. Okay. Germany, Adolf Hitler. So Mesmer created his thing in 1841. Adolf was born in 1889. So 50 years later, all these Germans were elite, kind of like, psychiatrists and doctors and medicine, especially, after World War I, or at that point, World War I hadn't happened yet. So all the, you watch the old movies of, Hitler and the big stadiums and stuff, all the lights going up and him elevated, they're all going higher, right? Well, in hypnosis, there's different types, but for a general type of hypnosis is you want mass gatherings. You want heightened anxiety, not anxiety, but heightened elevation, of feelings. And you want them looking up like this, like the watch, ding, 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 right? So you have 100 people in the room and you have them all do the same routine. Some people are like, I don't want to do this. What are you doing? I don't care. And then somebody would be like, yeah, they're in the zone. And then there's other people, they're just locked in 5%, maybe 3%, 1%. They just like goes in there and that's it. Doesn't come out. Hypnotic suggestion. So you can imagine where that went, how that fit into World War II, right? The media, right? Hitler and broadcasting. See, and back then it was like, well, if it's in the book, it's the truth. So when something came out on TV and it was like Hitler doing his thing, people was like, yeah, that's it. Our brains couldn't figure out what to go on. So that kind of was deceptive for the common people that are getting exposed to this stuff. It was dishonest. It was literally dishonest. Okay. Now, I think show 4 of mine. I think it's show 4. I have Leo Jones with me. Leo Jones is founder of Fargo Countermeasures. His equipment manufacturers served law enforcement agencies strictly. And I was an instructor with them. And I met Leo, and he's hardcore Catholic, and we got along quite well. And his guardian angel brought Marcel Vogel over to visit with him. And Marcel was deceased at the time. So it was just certain information that Leo wanted that Marcel gave him that confirmed that I was actually being a medium. So Leo liked what I did. And basically he worked with Western states police chiefs trying to bust bad cops. Police chiefs don't like bad cops. It's really dangerous with bad cops because you got a good cops, like they get set up. Anyway, so I got a lot of information from Leo about the history of use of hypnosis. And he says that his own historical direct information is for spies, they didn't have telegraph wires yet. They had telegraph wires, they could send stuff through the wires, they cut the poles down. That was the big fight. But unless you had telegraph wires, some poor, guy on a horse is gonna have to book it with the message, right? So if they took, what they would usually do is they would put the message in some kind of code carved into a piece of wood under a piece of bark. Okay, so that if they got caught, they could throw it in the fire and it would get burned and there'd be no evidence. Okay. But then they found out that there were certain applications in military settings where you could take an individual who's been repetitively hypnotized and tell them no matter how hard they try, they can't remember this code, alpha, beta, gamma, watch, or whatever, until somebody says the correct release word to you. So then they could just download a whole bunch of information of this poor hypnotized guy or gal. Tell them they can't retrieve the information until somebody says, abracadabra, 1, 2, 3, or whatever. It tells them to get going. And then there's not the worry of them getting caught and getting tortured and made to talk, because no matter how much you torture them, they're not going to talk. And so that was a big zone that this suggestion was used in the military in different armies for a long time. God knows how long. He knows that it was done in the Civil War in the US, but something like that, I wouldn't picture that, Jesus' time and all kinds of times, especially if you're above them. See, that's a big deal. And in mass, in group. So there's a little bit of spirituality and spying, how that goes together. So Leo Fargo countermeasures. Was with me in show, I think it's 4. I think it's show 4. Show 3, I'm not sure. Apologize. When I'm meeting with Oakland homicide detectives, where I located evidence for an individual that was featured on America's Most Wanted. And the mother of the missing girl was on the Sally Jessy Raphael show. And the FBI psychic Dorothy Allison on the show gave a piece of paper to the mother and father saying someone named Bell would get involved. She called the Oakland homicide detective from New York. 30 minutes later, I called him with the evidence. Nobody tells me, but it's a good part of this movie, the film, show, documentary. It's all documentaries, no scripts, no actors. So Leo went with me on that one. So he knew I could do this kind of stuff. And it's basically, correction, I was blessed to use the talent to focus on language, thought forms that are resonating in the quantum hologram, okay, that are impacted by the depth of your grasp of the thought forms. Anyway, so yesterday, I think was the 5th day of the riots in France. Not good, man. French people are pretty damn cool, intellectual, really super spiritual too. Like, I was there a couple of years ago. It's my Blanca, my spouse, and it was quite nice. We went to Cannes, and the only place that was kind of dangerous was under the Eiffel Tower. It was kind of wild. But anyway, media, suggestion, hypnosis is playing a part in what's going on the globe right now. Okay? Again, media, hypnosis, suggestion is a part of what's going on around the globe right now. Okay? That's a really, really big deal, because if you control people's thoughts, you're probably going to be able to control their behavior in some way. So I'm a speech and language pathologist, 40 years, hypnotist, certified hypnotist trained by Sylvia Celeste Brown, a graduate of Brain Science International Neurotherapy Certification Program. I am familiar. I'm not a neurotherapist. I'm familiar with the stuff. I've got the equipment. I've, passed the courses. I'm in the language aspect, morphic resonance, willpower, ability to focus on conditional love kind of thing. So suggestion and hypnosis, okay? Suggestion and hypnosis in different types of people. So everybody's watching the tube, okay? So in 2016, everybody had an antenna or something on top of their house, right? Rabbit ears or whatever. Antennas. It wasn't cable. We didn't pay for cable. Maybe, but not too many. Well, in 2016, Barry Obama, I will read from the White House Office of Press Secretary, March 9th, 2016, fact sheet. President Obama announces Connect All initiative, delivering on the promise of broadband and access to technology for all Americans. Connectivity is a path to greater opportunity in today's world. Broadband and fluency with technology fuel economic growth, provide access to the world's knowledge, promote skill development, and build stronger and more connected communities. You'll be connected, don't worry. You're more connected now that you know how connected you are. Okay. So we went from what used to be to digital. It's a whole different ballgame on your brain. Stuff can be done to your brain with digital stimuli that you can't do with the old stuff. really, really powerful stuff. Stuff that's called subliminal. It's below your liminal. Duh. Yeah, other side of that, like, I don't know. So it's a subliminal applications with digital. So you can say peanut butter and jelly and have the person say peanut butter and jelly and hold a piece of peanut butter in a sandwich. And you can make people feel nauseous, hungry, thirsty, angry, confused, have a headache. And they'll see the same thing and hear the same thing. It's just that everything's tweaked a little different. Maybe the background's a little different. Stuff that your brain does that you personally don't notice, but your brain picks up. Okay. So digital can do that. You can fine tune it. Okay. You can tune it. So say you're going to have, I won't pick an example. Let's say a wrestling, WWE. You can tune it so people can be more amped up watching that as compared to something say romantic or relaxation. Just the frequency of the stimuli that's coming out. Same stimuli as both. It's concealed in there. So that was 2016. Okay, so it's like, okay, 2016. So everybody's like, oh, that's cool, digital. I like digital. It's clearer picture, more information. Look, look, all kinds of products. People don't realize that they're actually bringing into their house a vacuum for their brains. So then, now we have what's called neuromarketing. Neuromarketing. See, in neuroscience, you can look at what's going on in the brain and you can go, oh, look, this makes a person get horny. Oh, this makes a person get angry. Oh, this makes a person have a tummy ache. Oh, and the person's just looking at the same thing. It's just the way the frequency or some little lines or something are going in there. Just kind of like, eh. So in neuroscience, you see what's going on inside the brain. Inside the brain. That's different than looking on the outside. Say, for example, someone's offering me a chocolate ice cream or a cookie, and I really want the ice cream, but I think the cookie would be easier to eat. So I take the cookie. So I'm saying, may I have the cookie, please? But the computer is showing he doesn't want the fucking cookie. He wants the ice cream major. See, the person on the other side is like a computer going, mm-hmm. It's kind of like, it's generalization was termed as brain mapping. You map the person's brain. It's not that hard. It's amazing. Now that you can see what's going on inside the brain, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. You want somebody to be felt like a racist, even though they're not a racist. So what you do is you say, they're a racist, and zap them with whatever frequency that makes people go, yeah, they're a racist. Or some guy look at you and just go, lie, lie, lie. And so they have the, brain map of, 1,000 people, what's going on. What's the best frequency to put this out that have a person go, oh, it feels so good, it's true. It feels so good, it's true. He's so nice, it feels so good, it's true. So you're contouring the stimuli to the response you're going to get from the people. So now they have neuromarketing, and neuromarketing is described as neuromarketing. Neuromarketing is the study of how people's brains respond to advertising and other brand-related messages by scientifically monitoring brainwave activity, eye tracking, and skin response. These neuromarketing techniques are used to study the brain. We wouldn't use it to sell us stuff either. They're just used to study the brain. We wouldn't use these techniques to influence people. We just use them to study the brain. Mm-hmm. To predict consumer decision-making behavior. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of people this doesn't affect at all. There's gonna be a lot of people, it'll affect them a lot if they're really, asleep and they're just listening to it. It'll affect some people every single time because it's actually something that bugs them. And so this just like, I hate white guys. I'm fucking racist, I don't know. Right? You can see what's going on in the people's brain. So let's say your political candidate is not a racist and you want people to think he's a racist. So every time he shows a picture of him with, a bunch of friends of his that are, different minorities, you zap them with some real negative stuff. So every now that when they're trying to combat, the bad press from people, why is it kind of nobody never said it, So this major conflict that's going on constantly today in France, in the United States, Germany, a couple other countries too. So in conclusion, they had roofs 40,000 years ago. Today, eavesdropping is going on even more, except now they're eavesdropping into the core of your mind. They're eavesdropping into the core of your mind. It's probably a good time to be responsible and do some centering on yourself, do some meditation. Something simple. And probably have some stuff, free stuff too. You and all your loved ones are always in my prayers.